But we had loads of fun adventures like that, man. Like tons of them. We ended up in all sorts of crazy places. Our van would break down all the time. We played a show in like rural Wales, and then had to like it ran out. In fact, it didn't even break down. This is how stupid it is. It ran out of fuel. We didn't put
I
gas in
was
the
gonna
tank.
ask, did you run out of gas?
Exactly. And it's like super hilly. So we had to push the van for like 4 miles.
Awesome. Well, I'm Adam, man. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, bro.
And this is a podcast about you and your journey in music, and obviously we'll talk about the new album you guys have coming out.
Sounds great.
Sweet. So I always kind of start off with your origin story. Where were you born and raised?
I was born in a place called Burton, which is
Okay.
just in the middle of the country, but I moved to the Blackpool area, which is where we're from,
Mhm.
when I was like a couple of years old. So I grew up there. It's a town by the sea. I grew up in a place called St. Anne's, which is like a kind of nice-ish suburb of the town.
Rad.
Yeah, so I went to school there. Like half my family's from there and stuff. So yeah, it was a pretty nice-ish place to grow up. You know, pretty quiet. Nothing super crazy.
Love it. Love it. What about as far as a creative household? Do you come from like a musical family or anything like that?
No, no, not at all. Like, and they're self-confessed. I don't mean to shit on my parents or anything, but
Right.
I say not creative. That's not true. My mum is creative. I suppose not musical. My mum is creative. She was when I was like 10, she like quit her job, and she did like, it sounds really random, but like face painting full time. So it was did like
Oh,
kids
cool. Yeah,
birthday
like kids'
parties and
birthday
stuff.
parties and
And
stuff. Oh, right on.
yeah, and like events and stuff. She still does it now, among other things. But I guess she has like a creative streak in that side of things. But there wasn't like, you know, the parent playing guitar in the household or anything like that. You know.
Sure. Well, then how did you get into music? Were you like drawn to it as a teenager or?
I was trying to think about this the other day, because I have a sister, but I'm the eldest, so I didn't really have that kind of, record collection bestowed upon me by an elder sibling, which
Okay.
some of my bandmates, well, two of my bandmates are brothers, and one bestowed music to the other, but they all have elder siblings that kind of gave them at least
Yeah,
some
they're a
sort of
record cool. Yeah, some idea of what was cool at the time or whatever.
exactly, yeah. But I think so. So when I was like a little kid, um, I really loved like basketball, which was like
Okay.
really hard to come by in the UK at that time.
Hmm.
Like you couldn't watch the NBA or anywhere. You couldn't even buy like basketball jerseys anywhere. So I
Wow.
like I think I loved it from Space Jam. I think I
Oh,
saw the
sure.
movie Space Jam as a little kid and was like, this is sick. Um, and I got like my dad for like my birthday, you could get like a really shitty um it wasn't even like an ESPN subscription in the UK. It was like a sort of like portal that you would pay like $5 a month and you would get like highlight reels and stuff because it was like early internet, like dial-up internet. So you couldn't really like watch long videos or anything.
Sure.
Um, but I
They
would watch.
would email you a clip or something like that?
I guess it was just like their website, and it'd be like, here's, this week's wrap up. And you just see loads of like, almost like kind of like watching like a sports show where they show you loads of news clips and stuff. And here's the results of this game, and here's some like highlights from it. But there'd
Hmm.
always be like really cool, like kind of very early 2000s, like hip hop over these
Oh,
over these clips. And it was stuff that wasn't really coming over onto like the radio in the. I guess I just would have had the radio.
hmm.
Um, and I remember kind of being like, this is really cool, and trying to kind of find out sometimes it would tell you what the song was in like the bottom corner. And it was like, I don't think it would have been anything like crazy underground, but it was just stuff that I'd never really heard of before. Um, so I started getting into like hip hop through that. And I really loved all that stuff.
Do,
Um,
Do you remember like a specific artist or anything? Like what was it like Naughty by Nature? I don't know. I'm just trying to think of something that might have been in
Yeah,
like
I
those
mean,
highlight reels.
yeah, it was. There was a little bit of like RZA and like
Oh,
Ghostface
cool.
Killer stuff, which was cool. But then there was a lot of because it was like the early 2000s. There was a lot of like Timberland and stuff. Like
Oh, sure.
he's like before he was like even big as a producer, like just his rap stuff and a lot of like
Mhm.
West Coast stuff. But I guess like Redman and stuff. Nothing. I know he's not West Coast, but nothing that I would say I still listen to now. I'm trying to think. Like it was probably even stuff like friggin' Soldier Boy and stuff. I don't
Oh
know.
yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. I'm thinking early. Yeah, I was going even earlier. I was going like 90s, but yeah, like early 2000s. Maybe
Yeah,
yeah, some of that
yeah.
like
So you know what I
Ja
mean?
Rule and all that type of
Oh,
shit.
dude, I bet it was Ja Rule for sure. Absolutely.
Back
But
that ass up was on
yeah,
there.
probably Joe Budden and stuff. But I didn't have any kind of. No one told me about music, so I was just kind of like it was anything that I heard, I would just kind of soak it up really.
Mhm.
So I just kind of listened to everything. And I remember in year 6 in school, so that's like the last year of elementary school.
Yeah.
So you'd be like 10, I suppose, or 11
Mhm.
in the UK. There was a kid in my year, my class. Shout out Mike Simmons. He's listening. He's definitely not. Um, he was like the cooler kid in class because he was like real tall, like good at sports and stuff. But he was a nice guy, and he had a lot of older brothers. I remember he told me he was like, "You got to check out this band." My brother showed me. They're called Linkin Park. And he gave me. I can't remember if he gave it me or I think I actually went out and like bought it or something. But because I didn't know how to like LimeWire wasn't a thing then, and it was
Right.
kind of pre.
Like
I guess that
Napster
would have
maybe.
yeah, maybe Napster was about I fucking wouldn't have known what that was. I was like 10, but iTunes wasn't really popping yet, I don't think. Maybe it was, but we're talking like 2003 or 2002. So I don't know. But he
Yeah, I
told
think like
me
I that probably came around a couple of years after. Yeah, I'm
yeah,
a little bit older than you. I remember when like iTunes and just trying to figure out how to get something onto an iPod at the time was like so mind blowing. I'm like, wait,
it
I have
was
to load
hard
all
to
my
do.
music onto here, and then I could.
Yeah, they made it difficult. I remember. But he was like, you got to check this record out, like this band out, and Hybrid Theory had just come out. So I went out and like bought it with like my fucking pocket money from, I get a weekly allowance from like, I don't know, hoovering
Doors or whatever.
and yeah, doing household chores and stuff. So I went out and I probably saved like a month for that thing, but I went out and bought Hybrid Theory. Um, and so it blew my head off because obviously it's an amazing record that still I think really holds up today. I love it. I still
Oh
listen
yeah.
to it. But obviously you have kind of like the rapping bits in it. So
Mhm.
I guess to my ear then I was like, oh, there's like this is familiar to me, but then there's this like screaming and really heavy like guitar and drums and stuff, and I just loved it. And I guess the early 2000s as well was we were messing around with like mixing metal and like hip hop all over the place, weren't we? Like on both sides
Mhm.
of the aisle. So there was a lot of cross pollination there, but I think that was my first kind of thing where I'd kind of gone out of my own way to like find a thing and found it and was like, whoa, this is melting my mind.
And from there, were you like, with Linkin Park, did that open up the doors to a lot of those other artists that are kind of fall within that same genre at the time, I guess? Were you listening to other like rock bands that you kind of found through Linkin Park at that time, or?
Yes, like it just kind of whatever I could get my hands on. Like I was a bit sort of young for like new metal to have been
Mhm.
kind of around at the first wave, like I guess I heard Linkin Park, but kind of the new metal thing. I feel like the wave had already crested at that point when I sort of got into my teens.
Okay.
But anything that I was kind of hearing and I would start like sort of reading flicking through the music magazines in the news agents, um, trying to find bands that way. And if I saw like Linkin Park, if they were wearing like a band t-shirt, one of
Mhm.
them had like a Deftones t-shirt, like a Far t-shirt, and I'd be like, I gotta check that out. But it was kind of, I guess, as soon as like YouTube and LimeWire and stuff came in, that I was just like, I need to know about all the music, like every single little thing. And I think at that point, yeah, it was we have in the UK or had like music TV stations, but they were only available on like Sky TV, which was like our kind of cable.
Okay.
And we couldn't afford cable, but my nan had it. And when
Oh, so
I
you go
would,
over to her house.
so she's always be like, "Oh, it's so nice to see you. Like you just come and visit little old me," and I'd be like, "Yeah, good to see you, Nan. I'm just gonna go like watch telly."
I'm gonna go watch your
Um,
TV.
exactly, yeah. Down.
Uh,
But yeah, it'd be like that and Scud. So it'd be also, and at that point, you know, it'd be like the Foo Fighters, and then it'd be like fucking System of a Down, and then, you know, kind of all over the shop, really. So I'd just be watching anything and everything and sucking it all up. I don't remember there being kind of, I don't think I really had the foresight at that age to kind of distinguish, I guess, like genres or like subgenres between bands. It was just like,
what
it's
you
all
like.
heavy
Yeah, it
or
was, this
whatever.
is heavier. Right, I like this. And then
Yeah.
how do you then decide, or do you like get a guitar, or like what kind of puts you towards wanting to make music?
I guess it never really. So I was then, I guess, going into high school, and I got a music scholarship to go to like a kind of, I guess you call it like a grammar school
Mhm.
uh in the town where I live. So it was like a free ride to like a sort of a good school, I guess, a high school. Um
Was
because
that through yeah, I guess how did you get the scholarship? Was it for singing, or like how did and then how do you
Yeah,
like
it was
apply
for
for it?
singing. It was for singing. I had singing lessons as a little kid and did some like kind of musicals and the church choir and all sorts of like super kind of suburban activities. I guess I don't know.
Mhm.
I just kind of
Did
yeah.
your parents put you in that? I mean, you obviously
Yeah.
are
I
a great singer. That's what you do. But you know what I mean? Like, was that something that your mom or dad heard you early on and were like, wow, Henry he can sing. Let's
I
throw
don't
him
know
in
because
this. Or
I
are
don't
you
think so
interested
because
in it?
I wanted to do like there was like a yearly like Christmas musical thing that
Hmm.
in the town, and I just did that as a little kid, like 8 years old. You know, some other kids that I knew in my street would do it, and it was just something to keep us occupied, I guess,
Hmm.
on like fucking Saturday mornings for however months of
Yeah,
the year. You know what I mean? So
sure.
I did that, and then I would, I guess, sometimes get like singing parts in that. And the primary school I went to was like a Church of England primary school. A lot of them are.
Hmm.
Um, I didn't grow up in a particularly religious household, but it's just kind of like you go to these schools and they're normally partnered with a church, and you'll do like whenever there's like Easter or Christmas, there'll be like, you know,
Like a
you'll go to
pageant type
church and
thing,
do a
or
little concert or whatever it
yeah.
is, choir. So I'd done some of that stuff. And I think it must have been somebody at my because there was like two schools in my town, and they're both good schools, but one of them, I guess this one was like, oh, they have a music program at the school and you could go to it and apply for it, I guess, and they'll take an X amount of like singers or whatever you do. There was a big like music program, so there's a lot of people in my year that were playing like violin and like the piano and stuff, and I
Hmm.
couldn't play any instruments, but I could just sing. So I
Hmm.
went and did that, and then
Okay.
from that, I kind of had to do all the music stuff in the school.
Sure.
And I had to play the drums as well. So I would play drums in like the jazz band. If they
Wow.
had like a school musical concert thing or whatever, I would be the drummer that played in the band that did the music for it or whatever. Um, and then I met just loads of friends who were like, I met basically the only other kids in the school who were like, well, I play guitar and I like Rancid. We
Okay.
should be in a band
Let's
together.
start a band, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so there was probably like five kids, and we would just sort of scrape together some covers, and we never really did a lot. But you know, there was a bunch of like iterations of the high school jam band thing. I feel like everybody
Mhm.
has that at some point, right? Like,
Yeah. Were you drumming for that, or were you singing in those
yeah,
bands, or
all
both?
drumming. I never sang
Oh, wow.
in like a any band. Well, I sang in so I never sang in any of these high school bands. Basically, I was always the drummer. And then all my like close friends really didn't go to that school. They went to the other school.
Hmm.
So I would kind of like school would let out and I would go hang out with those guys. Um, and loads of them were all musicians and played like all different kind. They were all into like music like me and they all play guitar and stuff. So we started a band. That was kind of like my first band that like played a gig, so to speak.
Sure.
Um, and they already had a drummer and he was better than me. But they needed a singer. Um, and it was like a kind of, I don't know what this band was. I don't think it was metalcore, but I don't think it was like post-hardcore, and I don't think it was like indie. It couldn't decide what
Mhm.
it was, and it was kind of all three of those things. Um, and it was 2000, it was like 2009. So this was like right in
Okay.
the year where there was a lot of two vocalist bands
Oh
kicking
yeah,
around.
that was a big thing. Sure.
Huge, right? So I was the clean singer, and then my
Clean
friend
vocal.
Fred
It's the screamer.
was the screaming. Exactly, yeah. So we did that, and it was a lot of fun actually, and I learned a lot about just kind of like songwriting and being in a band and stuff, and played the first ever gig like in front of people that
What
wasn't
was
like
that like?
honestly, it was in a pub, and there were about five people watching us, and two of them were these old guys at the bar who were just heckling us the whole time, and
Oh
it
man.
was in like the middle of the day. Yeah, it wasn't a very good gig. Yeah.
Oh
Um,
wow.
but we would like book our own shows and put on shows, and we would kind of travel all around the Northwest. We played a show in Manchester, which is like it's where I live now, but it's like the kind of nearest big city to where we're
Hmm.
from. And we kind of did our best and had a lot of fun doing it. Um, and but I'd never really sort of thought about anything other than it being for fun, really. And then I knew a lot of the people in Blackpool who were in bands from this band kind of putting on gigs and playing shows together and stuff and all that. So I went off to college to university to art school um, with little intention of coming back, to be honest. And then
Okay. Did you go to pursue music, or did you go for something totally different?
no, I basically went to do film. So
Oh, interesting.
kind of, yeah, I'd kind of transitioned from that. I did the band thing, but I started shooting music videos for all the bands in the area. So I
Hmm.
met a lot more people through that, to be honest. Um,
Okay.
I would
Are
just
you
kind of
still
like,
doing that now with your videos and everything? Are you a big part in that?
no, I mean,
Okay.
actually saying that I did just do our most recent video, but that's more of like a kind of graphical thing. I don't really pick up a camera, so to speak, but I'm normally quite closely involved with music video stuff for Boston Manor, yeah. Um, but I did that a
Okay.
lot. I
Cool.
really enjoyed it, and I met Ash and Jord who were in Boston Manor because I shot
Hmm.
their band's video. Um,
Oh wow. Okay.
yeah, that's where we
And
first
then do
met.
you guys just decide at one point, like, are all your bands kind of like at a certain level and it just won't go past, or are there members that are like, did you get to a point where you were like, I really want to take this seriously, and maybe those guys were in a band, they wanted to take it seriously? Because I know like at that age of like where you're not there yet, right? And you've maybe been doing it for a while. Members are like, yeah, I'm just gonna, I want to like get a job and have a life, or
Mm.
like I don't want to. This is it's so difficult, right? To like get to some success with this. Was it a point where that's how you guys all got together to then form Boston Manor? Like, how did that happen?
In a roundabout way, yeah, because all these bands kind of broke up when everyone kind of went off to, like you say,
This,
either go to college or get a job or whatever. I guess we were
mhm,
all around the same age, give or take a couple of years. So, they all kind of ended at a similar time.
mhm,
Um, and I got a call from a friend who was saying that these two brothers, and I knew of them, I didn't know them very well, but they were starting a new band, um, and they needed a singer. I should just go like chat to him, and I immediately hit it off with them and was like, "Oh, I have like a real immediate sort of like chemistry with these two." And we started immediately like writing music, and immediately from that, those demos, I was like, "Oh, this is like something different altogether. Like this feels like it could be like an actual sort of band, really." And I hadn't really ever considered I don't think I would have known how to be like in like a professional quote unquote band back then. I felt like another world really, but I just immediately had this kind of like energy, and I knew that these songs that we were writing were okay, like quite good, at
Mhm.
least by my kind of standard at the time. Um, so I got the other two in, Ash and
Okay,
Jordan.
so at that time it was just you, Mike, and Dan
Yeah, yeah, we wrote a demo, which was like 5 songs,
with
and
no drums, or were you drumming on it, or
just MIDI drums.
oh, MIDI drums?
I
Okay.
think on the demo, and then we were like, we immediately wanted to like start playing shows and kind of getting out of the northwest, because where we're from is a bit of a sort of um, it's not remote at all really, but it's there's not a lot going on here in terms of like not a lot of touring acts come through the county that we're from, Lancashire. Not a lot of touring acts really come through.
Okay.
Um, so the nearest kind of major place to play would be at the time
Manchester.
would have been here really. So we immediately wanted to start playing shows, and I knew Ash and Jord, and I was like, I know a good drummer and a guitarist. So got immediately kind of started practicing with those guys, and it just clicked really, really, really naturally, really instantly. And we started playing as many shows as we could. We bought like an old postal van and turned it into like a band van and
Oh,
started
rad.
going down to, I think our third ever show was in London, which at the time, I think a couple of the members had never even been to London. At the time it felt like such a sort of far off
Well,
place.
it's like it's like probably it's the biggest city, right? I mean, like that's like going if you're like in the States, you're like, I'm going to New York or LA to play, right? I mean,
Yeah,
that's like
yeah,
the
and it's like six
biggest.
hours away, which in the UK is like quite a long
That's a
distance.
long drive, right?
Yeah, totally. So it was a big deal for us, and we started kind of just booking shows ourselves and making friends on Facebook and trying to book tours. And we did. We did our first ever tour. We did a split
Uh-huh.
with a friend's like hardcore band, and then we started kind of like writing, I guess more kind of complete sounding songs. I mean, the music sounds very different from the music that we make now, but it resembled like more of a kind of developed band, I would say, than the kind of previous bands that we'd been in. Um, so we did that for like a couple of years, and we got to Europe on like a DIY tour where our van broke down halfway through. We were stranded in France for like a week, and then we had to like
Oh man.
kind of hitchhike home. Honestly, it was pretty fucked. But we had loads of fun adventures like that, man. Like tons of them. We ended up in all sorts of crazy places. Our van would break down all the time. We played a show in like rural Wales, and then had to like it ran out. In fact, it didn't even break down. This is how stupid it is. It ran out of fuel. We didn't put
I
gas in
was
the
gonna
tank.
ask, did you run out of
Exactly.
gas?
And it's like super hilly. So we had to push the van for like 4 miles until we were like right on the edge of this town to go and like fill it up. And it was like up hills. And so this van was tiny, so 5 of us could do it. But yeah,
Oh my
it was
God.
crazy. Um, and then yeah, we we got signed to
Yeah,
Pure
you
Noise.
signed to Pure Noise, right? Like after you had released like an EP and that split you were talking about, and how
Yeah.
does Pure Noise do they find you just because you've been touring and you're like a hardworking band, or like how did you kind of build that relationship to start that, and how did that kind of change the trajectory of the band, or well, like that? Because you think getting signed is like, oh, we've got it, right? That's like the dream. So then that happens and you get signed to a legit label.
Well, it was a real bucket list label for us as well, which is amazing. We kind of said, well, here we picked up a manager who he worked with us for a while. He's a nice guy, and he'd kind of like fished around, and we got a couple offers. We got one in from Hopeless Records, which
Wow, that's still
was
another big one.
it was a terrible offer. It was like it was almost like a 360 deal. Even our lawyer was like, we got a lawyer. He was like, I really would recommend you don't sign this record deal. It's really bad. And we were like, oh,
You're like,
you
but
know,
it's Hopeless
it's
Records.
Hopeless
Look at these
Records,
bands.
exactly, yeah. And a bunch of bands were blowing up on it at the time. And then we got into like what you call like the long form. You get like the short form, which is sorry, no, we got to the short form, Wait, which comes first? Yeah, the long form's the final sort of like, okay, sign on the dotted line kind of thing.
Okay.
And then just before we were about to sign it, Pure Noise just kind of popped in our inbox and were like, "Do you want to have like a Skype pre-Zoom?" And we were
Wow.
like, "Yeah, we'd love to." And then we met Jake from Pure Noise, who's still a good friend of ours to this day. And
He's a Nashville guy, I think, right?
what? Sorry.
Is he live in Nashville? I live in Nashville now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Jake is Pure Noise relocated to Nashville. I'm not sure if Jake's still in the Bay Area or if he is in
Is in
Nashville.
Nashville?
Maybe. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I think he's back and forth a little bit, but yeah, we spoke to him and we just really liked him straight away, and he was awesome and really kind of got what we were trying to do. And yeah, we signed with them like the next week, and it was amazing. And there was a real sort of immediate kind of kickstart to what we were doing, and they got us out to the US, which at that time, I mean, it's hard enough now. Like we're finding it difficult to get to the US at the moment, like because of
Yeah.
things like money and
And visas and all that.
yeah, I mean, costs have gone insane after COVID. But at that time, UK bands just didn't get out there. It just wasn't really a thing. You get all these huge UK bands that were doing so well domestically that just never really had a chance to tour over there. I don't think we'd ever expected to be able to do that. That was kind of immediately our expectations have been exceeded when that happened. In fact, it was a bit of a false start first. The first US tour we were going to do, our visas didn't get approved in time, and it
Oh,
got down to the wire, and we were like packed for the tour, going to fly like the next day, and we were like, it's going to come in today. And then we got this call from our manager, and they were like, "It's not happening." So we had to drop off the first tour that we were meant to do, which was a
oh
real
man.
yeah.
Who
But
was
then
that? Was that I think I saw something about that. Was that the Can't Swim tour?
it was the Pure Noise Records tour. So I'm trying to remember now, but I think it was like Can't Swim were on it, I think. And then it would have been something like, I don't know, like 4 Years Strong and
Okay. Hit the light.
maybe State Champs or something. Like
Oh
it was
yeah, yeah, okay.
sort of a pop punk tour, but I can't remember who else was on it at the time. But yeah, we were super bummed about that. But it came
Okay.
through later, I think either later on that year or early the following year. And then from there, we did like 3 US tours a year. We started people in the UK and Europe started complaining, saying we were like a US band now. Like we would be there all the time.
Well, and your name is Boston Manor. So I mean, people
Yeah.
probably assumed right away, oh, Boston,
Yeah, we do all right in New
Mass
England. All
Massachusetts band.
that,
Yeah. We do all right in England or New England. Oh, that's funny.
yeah.
Yeah, so you put that record out. I mean, you guys did Warp Tour, what, a couple of years later, a year later. I mean, things started happening, right? Once you
Yeah.
made the US trip and everything else.
It really snowballed, and we were like, we were super young, and we were on tour all the time. We would tour for like 10 months of the year, and when we weren't touring, we were like in the studio making records and stuff. So it was kind of nonstop from I would say sort of 2016 until the pandemic hit. Really, like kind of completely relentlessly, and it was amazing. We did like you say, Warp Tour was like such an incredible experience. Like I'm so grateful to have done that. It was unreal. We did like Japan, Australia. We made like a couple albums in the States, which was really, really sick. And then yeah, it kind of just all ground to a halt really quickly when the pandemic hit, which was, I mean, I'm jumping ahead here, but
No.
it does feel like a bit of a whirlwind that kind of 3 or 4 years because it was just so non-stop.
Yeah, because you guys I mean, you put out 3 albums with Pure Noise, and sounds like it was in that kind of time, right, where stuff was going, and it was like, okay, now you put out Welcome to the Neighborhood, and that does really well, and you get nominated for awards, and all these things start happening. Like, at what point were you guys working like day jobs prior to signing with Pure Noise, and like do you remember going in and like quitting your job or not having to do that
Yeah,
anymore?
yeah. I mean, I got like, so I kind of had like an actual job for a little bit, and it's the only proper job that I've ever had. So I would just like work in bars and shit. But I had like a job in this weird, like, it was really weird. It was like a local, imagine like a local Yelp, but like just for
Okay.
the area. It was really strange. It was kind of like a restaurant guide. I don't know. It was really weird, but I did all the like, I just did, it's like an admin job, but I did that
Okay.
for like a few months as soon as I finished university. And then yeah, I kept having to just like phone in sick, but I wasn't sick. I was
Take
on
time off.
tour playing shows, and then it got to the point where it was just like the lies were getting too elaborate, and
Yeah.
they kind of knew something was up, and I just kind of had to like be like, I had to quit. And by the way, I'm in this band, and we got signed, and that's why I'm quitting. So from that, yeah, pretty much immediately, like we lived dirt cheap because we were always on the road. So we
Mhm.
recorded that debut album in the UK. We lived in the studio for like a month and made it. No, it was only like 2 weeks actually. We made it super fast. And then we went
Wow.
on the road, and then I feel like we would only come home for like a couple of weeks at a time, stay at our parents' place or wherever, and then just on to the next tour. It was we were kind of like carnies. It was crazy.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, I can't imagine. I would imagine that you would be, yeah, touring so often that it's like, what's the point of even having a place to pay for that's just going to sit here, right? You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
If you're gone for
totally.
that long.
It was just a place to kind of like you know leave our bags in an
Right.
instant, leave our shit, and like sometimes how we would even stay in this. There were times when there was no point in even going back. We would like stay in the States for a couple of weeks. We had a
Mhm.
visa, so we would just stay there with a friend and then start the next tour kind of thing.
Yeah. You said did you do Welcome to the Neighborhood and Glue in the United States or no?
Yeah, yeah, we did.
Okay.
It was awesome. We did it with Mike Sapone. He's a really good friend still. He's an amazing producer. We did it in Lake Opatcong in New Jersey. It's kind of weird, like
Okay.
kind of isolated, like lake town. It was cool, really cool, but like it was super isolated. So it was like there was like a diner and a gas station and like a sort of bodega type thing in the town, and that was like it. Oh, there was like a bar as well. That was literally like all there was in the town. So, and it was just
Whoa.
kind of like you would get to the town limits, and it'd just be
Uh-huh.
like the woods forever. So cool, but it was like a little creepy in the winter. We were snowed in a few times, and we obviously
I
didn't have a car
bet.
or anything, so we couldn't. We just had to go over on foot. So we were there for like I think 6 weeks making Welcome to the Neighborhood. So it was a long time to be on one street essentially.
You're right. Yeah. And it's in such a small town with no like real way to get around other than walking.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Honestly, I'm surprised we didn't drink more. To be quite honest, like there was nothing to do, but it was super fun making the album, and it was such a trip for us being like in America making an album in like a big studio. The
mhm.
album in our first record in it was like it was a nice enough studio, but it was like small, like a little bit DIY. It was kind of just in a like an old barn, and we were staying in like a bunkhouse next to it that had like rats in it and shit. It wasn't glamorous. And then this album was in this kind of gorgeous, you know, Neve console suite
Yeah.
thing.
Leveled up a bit with that next
Oh
one.
yeah, totally, totally. And it was, we were like, wow, we fucking in America making an album. So it was so much fun. And same with Glue, as we did in the same place. It was sick. Got to kind of just try a lot of stuff and experiment, and I think we changed as a band quite a lot in a short space of time because of that.
Oh, just recording in that place?
Yeah, and just also all the places that we'd been and the people that we met,
Oh,
the
sure,
that we
sure,
had.
sure.
It was like we were
Mhm.
kind of living life on fast forward for a
Right.
few years. So I feel like we changed. So it must have been weird and I've talked to friends about this, from home who knew me as a teenager and I'm still friends with, kind of they wouldn't see me for like 6 months and then they'd see me again and I would not change, but have experienced so much in
Yeah, you
uh,
grew faster in a way because you had, like, way more life experience. I mean, you had
I
been
guess,
around the
or
world at that
yeah, I
point,
guess, or
I'd
just
imagine.
things like our tastes and things, and even kind of the way we would talk. We'd spend some people would be like, "You sound like I'm an American," and it'd be like, "Well, all my friends are American. That I spend all my time with." So,
Yeah,
like,
I just spent so much time there, yeah, right.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
with Glue, I mean, you put that out in 2020. Was that You talked about how the pandemic then obviously stopped everything, in a way. You put that album out in May. That's, like, right after the pandemic had already kind of been going for a minute. So was that album all done, and then were you gonna release it earlier, or was that always the plan? Like, how did that affect that album?
Yeah, it totally kind of like messed up the whole thing. Really, I mean, we'd already recorded it, and that was a cool process in of itself. We split it up and did half of it in Texas and half of it in that other studio I was talking
Oh,
about.
wow.
It was
Okay.
super cool, um, but it came out when it was always meant to come out, but I guess we kind of sort of started the rollout, so to speak, before the pandemic, and then by the time it came out, it like kicked in. So we were like, ah, well, this is what it is now.
Right.
And yeah, it kind of just got a bit sort of. I mean, we never did a tour on it. We did that like fucking. We kind of did a tour on it, but it was that one. I mean, you can see that tour there, but it was kind of
Mhm.
2 years after the record came out, once COVID was over. So it wasn't really a glue tour.
Got it.
Um, you
'Cause
know,
at that point, did you already have the, part 1 of what you're gonna release a second album here, next month? Was that already in the works or
we
not
started
out or
making. Yeah, we I think when that when that tour happened, we just released the EP after the pandemic,
Oh,
uh,
okay.
or we were about to. Anyway, we've been dropping singles off of it, and
Mhm.
then and so from the pandemic, we'd started writing it. We wrote a lot of the tour in the pandemic, so we'd kind of already started. So that's the thing with Glue. We'd kind of already started moving on to the next thing.
Mhm. Did you know Datura it was gonna be a part of a two-part thing going into it?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
okay. Was it always that's always been the idea? It's gonna be a double album?
basically, yeah, yeah. We kind of wanted to do this like double album, but because each part was going to be so contrasting, we kind of were like, well, let's split it up into two kind of records, really. And they were meant to be like shorter. Like the tour was the well, Sundive was meant to be shorter. They were both meant to be like 6, 7 songs, so almost like two EPs, really. But then
Mhm.
Sundive kind of became this like, I guess, full length, like bigger record, just because it kind of did. I don't know. It just
Yeah.
kind of happened that way.
Did you write all those songs together? Like, Datura was that? Because just based off what I was reading and, like, the sonically, Datura is pretty, like, electronic, has,
Mhm.
like, a heavy production value to it, and the songs that you've put out thus far, are pretty rock and roll. Was
Yeah,
that
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
the idea when you went into it? Like, what was, like, the concept going in, like, "We wanna make an album that or a double album that does this?" Like, was there, like, an idea?
Yeah, and I think it came the sort of themes and the emotions of the different albums came before the actual sounds of them. Like we sort of knew that Datura was this like dark record about kind of I guess the sort of hangover of the craziness of the last few years that we'd kind of all been riding high on. And
Mhm,
a bit of pandemic gloom mixed in there, but a lot of it was about kind of like getting to the end of our 20s and feeling kind of a bit burnt out and like spiritually hungover, I suppose.
mhm,
And we had kind of figured out we were like, well, we definitely kind of have some kind of growing up to do a little bit and a bit of changes to make. And some of us weren't that healthy, and we were kind of like, we kind of need to sort our shit out, really. So we kind of that's kind of part of it, and we kind of thought, well, there's no point in kind of like writing a record about the sort of the next chapter where you've kind of fixed your problems and you haven't fixed your problems yet. So we sort of decided to kind of like write this structure. I guess a little bit kind of like willing change into being in terms of like we're going to do the second part where we need to sort our shit out, so we better go and
er,
sort our shit out so we can make this album.
okay,
But it was also kind of I suppose about kind of emotional change and a change in the mood of kind of the bigger picture outside of us. I guess politically, I knew that we were moving towards a end of the Conservative government that we've had for the last 14 years, and I'm hoping that's going to bring about some positive change. It's also kind of like, if you contextualize Datura within the confines of the pandemic, then we're certainly in a much better place than we were in terms of that. But
Sure.
yeah, but yeah, and it's one of those things where it started to kind of like build itself. When we wrote Datura, we kind of like decided what the sort of building blocks of Sundive was going to be. You were going to have the intro that was going to be like the reflection of the Datura intro. So Datura Dusk, Datura Dawn. We were going to have kind of like slightly melancholy but like woozy finisher to the record. We were going to have an interlude that I'd already made. The Morning Star, I kind of made that at a similar time to Shelter from the Rain on Datura. So it kind of, because it was also supposed to be like 12 hours of a night and then 12 hours of a day, it kind of had to have almost like a clock face, like similar.
Oh, okay. I see what you're. Yeah.
So
Yeah, because the tour is the night, and then Sundiver will come into the daylight of the other side of what the kind of the concept of the whole thing.
Yeah, so Datura ends with like bird song, like obviously the break of dawn, and then the exact same sample starts Sundiver.
Oh, rad. Okay.
So it kind of just follows on into the next day, and it's supposed to be kind of about new beginnings and new life, and the idea that you can kind of always change. It's never too late, sort of thing. And then it started to build itself. Lots of things happened in our life. Like 2 of us became parents, which obviously had a huge impact on everything, and particularly the themes of the record. It kind of suited it down to a T. And I just feel like we all did so much growing up in the time that since we began writing the first half of this album, this double album, to now, it seems like a lifetime ago, really. But it's crazy to sort of look back and reflect on, because we've kind of been in it for so long. Like, we kind of have been making this album for about 4 years, really, which is wild.
Wow. Yeah. So do you finish the tour before you start writing the songs and music or lyrics or emotions or whatever
Basically,
behind Sundiver? Okay.
Yeah, we kind of didn't want to preemptively like write the record, because it also had to kind of be genuine and come from like a genuine place. So we sort of knew the kind of, like I say, the sort of, I don't know, the rough storyboard of the record, if you will, but we hadn't like actually written any music or lyrics or anything from it. I think one song came from a Datura demo, but if you were to compare it with the finished article with the demo, you wouldn't even be able to tell it was the same thing.
Interesting.
It basically all was like, we'd left it until Datura finished to start making Sundive. And I'm glad that we did it that way, really. Because also, I think I'd be so fucking sick of this record if I'd record
if they're all 4 years old.
Exactly.
Was there a song that you wrote, or like a moment? Because I would imagine you write hundreds of songs, probably not just the 11 that made the album. Was there a song that you wrote, or a moment that you can remember? You're like, oh, well, okay, I know we're on the path. Like this is going to be the start to, I like, you saw the change, or you could see the work being done as far as like getting to that other side to start into Sundiver. Was there a song that you wrote, or a moment that you all knew, like, this going forward, this is okay, we're now it's time to start heading towards writing this second album?
Yeah, it's a song called Fornix, which is on the B side of the album.
Okay. You haven't put that one out yet.
No, it'll come out with the record. But if you look at the lyrics of that song, it's like a pretty good kind of like one sheet of the themes of the whole album. Like, it kind of sums a lot of it up really well. And a big challenge on the album was kind of like getting this like kind of like big rock sound, this big guitar sound, to sound really bright and I guess vaguely positive, without it sounding like really sort of just like happy and just kind of like makey and kind of cheesy, sugary pop. We kind of still wanted it to have this like grit to it and to kind of sound like us, because we tend to be quite a sort of minor key, melancholy, like dark sounding band. So we were trying to kind of strike this fine line, and I think the first time that we really nailed it was when we wrote that song. So that was one of the first written for the record that made the cut anyway. We probably wrote about 200 songs for this album, but this, I think Fornix was maybe the first sort of like finished song that we did.
Okay.
And yeah, from there, but it was still wasn't like, we've had albums where it's like you take ages to find the right feel, and then when you write that song, for Welcome to the Neighborhood, it was like Digital Ghost and Bad Machine, and then after that it was like boom, 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 we got it.
Yeah,
For
the
this,
floodgates open. So yeah.
yeah, totally. But for this, it was just like a real battle, and we were still kind of writing right up until the wire, really, and sort of trying to, you know, we recorded a couple extra songs like completely in the studio and then never put them on the album because we were like, it doesn't fit the
Oh wow.
into the sort of the jigsaw, really.
Hmm.
We were, I guess, trying to sort of still keep it a quite diverse record, but make it, this is a really hard part of it, make it still feel cohesive. So not sort of
Hmm.
feel like it's kind of, you know, a playlist and still more like an album.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I think we achieved that. I think it was a hard going, and I hope when people listen to it, it does feel cohesive, because that was a real sort of goal for us to have a kind of broad sound that all still sounds like the same record, you know?
Hmm. Like if you played it all the way through, it'd feel, even through the first album, it would feel like it all still kind of fits in a way. Is that what
Well,
you're
particularly Sundiver, because
just Sundiver
we did want it to
itself?
contrast the Torah. But I think when you put them together, if you listen to it from track 1 of the Torah to track 11 of Sundiver, it feels like a real journey, you know. And
Hmm.
we also were like, we kind of would talk about it in the same senses of like films, like how they have sort of like 3-act structures. We kind of
Hmm.
want that emotive kind of ebb and flow in the album. So there was like a kind of, you know, if it was like a cheesy movie, you'd have like the protagonist is kind of down on his luck at the end of Act 2, and then there's like the big redemption and in the sort of middle of Act 3, and then the kind of closer, the resolve or whatever, you know. So we kind of were keeping stuff like that in mind as well. I'd say Sundiver has that more than Datora, but they still do work together as like a kind of narrative if you listen to it.
Love it. Well, I appreciate your time, Henry. Thank you so much, man, for doing this.
Thank you, mate. No, you as well. It was great.
I have one more question before I let you go. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Yeah, I do. I would say don't pay too much attention to the internet. Quite honestly, and sort of what other artists are doing. Spend don't be in such a hurry to release stuff either. Spend more time kind of like figuring out what you like and what you don't like, and listening to music and making music. And you know, don't feel that everything has to be a hit. Don't feel that everything has to be immediate, and don't feel that you have to release stuff at the pace that social media is kind of telling you that you do.